Welcome to the Hall Podcast, episode number 4. I'm your host today, Ryan King, and today with me I have Miranda Kurucz.
Hello, how are you doing, Ryan?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely, thanks for inviting me.
So, you are a woman in the trades?
I am, yes, I am a woman in the trades. I have been in construction for almost 15 years now, actually.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. So how did you get into the trade? So what were you into in high school? Where did this start?
I didn't start off on a natural progression into the trades. In high school, I was more interested in animals, and I wanted to get into like veterinarian or taking care of animals. And then I actually didn't graduate on time. My family moved around a lot in the last year of high school. So I started off construction cleaning. The patient care center in Victoria was the first project I worked on. I got into the construction cleaning sector and ended up hired on with the general contractor as a laborer. And I really enjoyed the environment. It was interesting. We were working with electricians. I was working with plumbers. I was working with contract workers that were doing the concrete and general laborers. And I ended up getting hired on with the hospital in maintenance. So I did 5-6 years at the Royal Jubilee Hospital in Victoria.
Okay.
And then I moved to Kitimat about 8 years ago. And when I got to Kitimat, it was right at the end of KMP.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of work for fourth-class power engineers, which is what I had done. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of construction workers that were unemployed, and somehow I was able to get on laboring again. Nice. So I started off painting with a contractor on site at Rio Tinto, working at the smelter. From there, I worked with sheet metal, I worked with iron workers, and then finally I kind of begged a spot in their fabrication department for metal fab. Yep. Started welding, and then went, hey, you know what makes sense? Doing my steam fitting, because I have my power engineering. So they allowed me to sign up for an apprenticeship. And that is pretty much history now. I've been in the hall since 2018.
Nice.
And I was the 8th woman to sign up for steam fitting at the time.
Wow.
Yes.
So
with the hall.
Clearly you're a hard worker, because everywhere you've been, someone's hiring you they're taking you off one job, taking you into another. So
yes, I've worked my way through each
Not
role.
afraid of hard work. Now, so coming into steam fitting, what schools have you gone to?
I've only taken my schooling at PIC here at UAPICBC.
Okay.
Yeah, for steam fitting. And then BCIT for my 4th class power engineering.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So now, what jobs have you done since you've been in the hall as an apprentice steam fitter?
So as an apprentice steam fitter, I worked out in Camano, and I also worked at Rio Tinto at the aluminum smelter, and I've been at LNG for the last,
Last while?
Last long while, yeah, a couple years. So,
nice.
Yeah, and worked through the underground of the project, and now I'm working in the gas trains.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So now you're currently taking 4th year.
Yep.
So how far are you into that right now?
We are 4 days in and looking forward to writing my IP on the 23rd of December.
Oh, you already got your sights set.
Yes, hopefully it'll be my Christmas present to myself.
How many people are in your class currently?
I believe we're at 11 or 12.
Nice.
Yeah, in our class.
Any familiar faces?
Everybody is a familiar face, just about. This has been a pretty lucky school year for us because we are the first 4th year for the Harmonized program.
Okay.
So everyone's kind of done each year together. We did 1st year together. So, a couple of us did 1st year together, and then 2nd year, it's almost all the same faces. 3rd year, all the same faces. So it's quite a tight-knit community. We talk out of school and have kept in touch since 2nd year.
Nice.
Have a group chat going on. It's pretty interesting.
So for people that aren't familiar with Harmonized, can you explain what Harmonized means?
Absolutely. So they took a step back, ITA, and realized that BC's curriculum didn't currently align with a lot of the other provinces for the trades. So for many of the trades, carpentry, electrical, they harmonized and redid each school year so that it matched up at the same learning levels as other provinces. So you could take 1st year in BC and it would completely apply to 1st year in Alberta. The school would be completely in line.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense. But in the process of doing that, they are slowly phasing out the old system as well. Yeah. So you have to take 1st year harmonized, then you're going to continue on with 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year. You can't progress into the 2nd year from the old system.
So one of the things they've removed, correct me if I'm wrong, is the gas.
Yes.
So you will not have a B gas ticket at the end of this.
At the end of our steam fitting, we won't have the B gas ticket unless we decide to do level 1, level 2 of gas as its own trade.
Yep.
They also took out the cross connection.
Yep.
Out of our curriculum.
So will the gas or the cross connection be anything that you pursue, or?
I'm interested in the gas and pursuing the gas. That would also depend on what I was doing for work and access to work and wanting to have the relatable hours.
Yeah.
I definitely think that gas B and gas A are something I would be interested and capable of doing. It's just a matter of the work.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was on the old system, when I did I'm a steam fitter by trade as well. So we did gas and we did the cross connection. A lot of people in the steam industry probably not using the cross connection ticket, very seldom. I worked in town doing a lot of service work, so it was kind of one of those things, there was always work to do if you had it. But the gas for myself was huge. And a lot of the classmates that I was with that would work industrial, out of town sector, a lot of them would be looking to come in town. And like, what kind of in-town work is available, kind of looking for something, to be close to home or whatever. And the gas ticket seemed to be the gatekeeper to that because, you could work for a contractor doing heating or whatever, but it was the gas ticket was the big
Keeps
thing.
you at home. You don't have to do the journey as much. For me, being in Kitimat, the ticket, most of our work up there is industrial. Yeah. So to be able to get that commercial and residential gas experience to do the gas B.
So in your family, do you have anyone else that's Red Seal certified in any trades?
I have nobody in my family that is Red Seal certified in the trades. I fell into this completely naturally, and it wasn't even a glimmer in my history. My dad, actually, that's a lie. My dad did do his first year plumbing, but when he was like 17, he dropped out back in the day, and it was never something talked about. Neither of my parents were very hands-on, trades related. So it's kind of interesting that this is a path that I kind of went into.
So now, for yourself in the construction trade, or the trades, at some point did you work union and some point did you work non-union?
Never in fitting. I did non-union for when I was a laborer on the patient care center. I believe that was so long ago. I'm not even certain. It's actually kind of funny because when I first got into the hall, I wasn't even quite aware that I was part of 170. In my mind, I worked for small town Kitimat company for mechanical contractor. And I've learned as I went to school and as you do the history of 170 and you learn about the trades, that I was part of this union brotherhood, sisterhood, and this family. And it's actually been quite eye-opening. I find it really exciting, especially now that I'm on a site like LNG. You see people job to job, and there's a bigger community there where people want to take care of each other because they know each other, and it is like, not to say it's like a family, but you know each other, you know your families, you know your histories, you know where you've worked together, and I love that feel, that community feel. Yeah,
it's I saw the same thing. So for my education history, I went to school here. So I did all 4 years with Dave Sales, our old STEAM instructor. And there was always familiar faces, and so there's a little bit of camaraderie. There's that community, if you will, and that learning. Same thing. All the first year apprentices, regardless of age or background, some maybe have more insight into, say, the union or the way job sites work, but for the most part, we're all kind of learning together, and so you kind of grow together, right? So by the time you get to fourth year, everyone's kind of seasoned in it. They're used to the job site and how the safety, everything works, and it's neat to see like that progression.
Absolutely. And I think with that comfort, with that camaraderie, there's an ease of asking questions, answering questions, and there's less of a fear of looking ignorant when you bring up something that you're maybe not comfortable with or sure of, and then others can bring relatable information and bring up job sites that they know you've worked on because they've worked with you on those sites, and explain where you've seen that in a practicable way or a practical way.
Well, that's the toughest thing, say fourth year, when you're getting exposure to steam systems and high pressure and low pressure and different things that not necessarily everyone has has worked on or even been a part of or seen. So for you to have experience in the class, you know, where everyone can share, it's beneficial to
Absolutely.
passing.
It adds that extra layer, like a 3D immersive.
So getting your red seal, what does that mean for you?
What does that mean for me? I think it's just a starting point. There are so many other avenues within the hall or outside of the hall as well, where that ticket is just the beginning. You're opening up the door. There's so much to learn. Like I think the biggest portion about an apprenticeship is every journeyman you talk to, it's them telling you that it never ends.
Yeah.
Like the items, the Lego blocks stay the same, but the way you assemble them, the tools you use to assemble them, sometimes the blocks do change, and you're constantly having to develop along with the rest of your comrades and figure out these new systems and learn about the new avenues that are coming out, the new efficiencies, and it's just you're always constantly developing. And you got planning, there's QC, there's so many opportunities, there's teaching that could come in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely see it as just the first door to open.
Yeah, it's funny because it's almost like it's not even close to the same, but like going from elementary to high school. So if you got to grade 7, you're the oldest kid in the school, and you kind of made it, and then you graduate out of there, and then you're like, oh, I'm in grade 8, and I'm at the
highest
bottom.
paid person that doesn't know
So you
much.
get your red seal. You have the whole world open to you now. So you got your red seal. You have this big wage increase you've just received, right? When you get there.
Absolutely.
And now you have so many more doors open for you. And that red seal never gets taken away, right?
Yeah.
That's you've earned that, and you've established a new minimum wage that is pretty incredible.
Absolutely, and just so much to look forward to with that comfort level of knowing that's your new base. It's like in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? We've hit the
You hit some safe ground.
Yeah, hit that marker where you can answer a question wrong and you still get to fall back.
Yeah. So give us some insight into what it's like being a female on the job site.
So being a woman in trades is interesting. Of course, it has its own caveats, but I've always found that it also has its benefits.
Okay.
In many ways, you stand out, and that can be negative, but it can also be a positive. And I find that for many, having a woman on site actually brings kind of a new culture where everyone's feeling a little bit more accepted and comfortable once they get to know you. There's kind of that breakthrough moment where it's like, oh, there's a girl here. How's this gonna go? And then once you start getting and they realize you're there to work, you wanna show up, you wanna represent, you don't want to hinder, and you just want to learn alongside with everyone else. You hit that point, and I think it just can be a really powerful place to be as a woman, is in construction with the guys. It's great. Yeah.
There's if we look at the population, if 50% of the population is female, and we're looking at an industry that all construction trades are looking for new members and workers.
Yeah.
It's a huge untapped resource,
market,
right?
yeah.
Like there's so many people that could fill these jobs.
Well, and on top of filling the jobs, I think it's really important that our industry is representative of our customers, because it also helps with how we appear and how we reach out to the world. So you want to be a microcosm of who you're serving. And as we know, BC is a melting pot of 50% women, minority members, minority groups. It's an incredible avenue to be reaching out to different populations and welcoming them in and creating an environment where they can come to work, they can show up, and they can showcase their skill sets as well.
So how have you found learning on the job? Like people forthcoming with the information, people eager to help? Like what does that look like?
I'm obnoxious, and I think that helps. I think for apprentices out there, it's important to know you need to stand up for yourself. And if you feel you're not getting a knowledge base, make sure you go, hey, I actually don't know how to do that. Can you show me? And when I reached that level of confidence after probably my second year, where I could reach out, it just was a game changer for me to be able to go up to any journeyman in the area and be like, I don't know how to do this, and you're going to show me, because we need to know together so that we can be better together. And I've always had that kind of I've had luck with that confidence level.
There's something empowering about being able to say, I don't know how to do that.
Absolutely.
And being humble and comfortable enough, that's, if you go back years past where, it was like people were afraid to maybe speak up or, admit something they didn't know or whatever, where now it's like, no, it's cool to say, hey, I don't know how to do that. Can you show me?
Better to do it the first way, ask the question, than to do it wrong and find out you weren't hitting the mark. I think that's another way where having women in the trades on site has benefited is I've always found many of the other like male apprentices where they might be a little bit more nervous to speak up because they've maybe gone through that environment at some point in their apprenticeship.
Yep.
They'll come up and be like, oh, do you know what's going on? And I'll be like, no, but I'll stand up and I'll be like, hey, what's going on here? How do I do this? And I think it's that level of compassion and empathy towards maybe being ignorant and being able to kind of be like, hey, this might sound dumb, but
well, I tell a lot of the apprentices that I speak with, like, you're in charge of your apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So, not all journeypersons are created equal necessarily. So, at the end of your 4 years of education, you're going to be a red sealed tradesperson, and you should have a base kind of skill set, but you don't want to be really good at carrying materials and putting in anchors, say, right? Like you want to be as well-rounded as possible. So like for yourself to be kind of upfront and like, hey, like I want to learn, show me, and let me be a part of this. Like that's the mentality.
You're your own advocate. You are your best advocate. And I think that culture is changing on site where it's less of that sit back and listen and more of the this is what I know, this is what I don't know, and let's figure out how we can get me to that next level.
Yeah. It moves the job along, right? Like I think, back in the day there used to be that, well, I don't want to train the other guys because then they're just going to do my job. It's like, no, I want everyone around to be as good as me and better.
Yeah.
And I think there's some power too in the journey person training, the apprentice, because they're learning too, right? Everybody's constantly learning. Like you said, like once you got your red seal, that doesn't mean you're done.
Yep.
Right? So, whether it's your gas ticket or maybe you want to get your A gas ticket or like QC, whatever, you have so many avenues. So you're only limited by your, quest for knowledge, if you will, right?
Yeah. And I think like when you've gone through that period of time too, you're able to recognize when an apprentice that's coming onto the site is maybe struggling or isn't confident to speak up, and you have that empathetic aspect where you can be like, hey, I've been in your shoes before, and just tell me you don't know what you're doing. Let's do this together, because if we can lift all those who are coming in behind us or beside us as we also climb and learn and develop, we are going to be so much stronger as a whole. When you have everybody on the same page and working together and developing each other's skill sets, there's nothing but benefits.
Yeah.
Especially as the markets are changing and it is getting harder to find skilled trades people, trades workers.
So what are some of the other boards or panels that you sit on?
So I represent UA 170 for Build Together, which is the women of the BC building trades. Right. I also sit with BCCWITT as a regional representative, and that's an initiative through ITA for BC Centre for Women in the Trades.
Okay.
I find both those avenues. Build Together allows me to speak to many unionized trades workers, women, minorities, men, just to have a good understanding of how their environment is going, how the unionized trade sector is. And then BCCWITT allows me to talk to groups that maybe aren't in unionized trades and kind of explain the differences or see their varying perspectives of the construction industry. Yep. And it's quite interesting to sit in some of those rooms where you have members from both sides and being like, oh, wow, we're really lucky to be in the unionized sector for the things that we have that are just as simple as like flushing bathrooms being offered to us.
I find a lot of time when you kind of engage in discussion with someone from the non-union sector, and we talk about some of the things we have and some of the things we stand up for, and kind of the way our education system's laid out and stuff, and they kind of go, well, really? What?
You have that offer to you?
and when they're kind of honest with you and they share their perspective or what they've heard or whatever, and it's like, no, it's not like that. And it's kind of once they kind of see behind the door, they're like, oh, like wow, like and then usually the question after that is, well, how do I become a part of that, right?
Absolutely. I think it's almost like that caricature of construction is that non-union world. And then you get this refinement when you kind of look into the unionized trades where it's a little bit more like dressed up. It's a profession. Like it is a skilled profession. And it's something to be proud of.
So with your role within the BC building trades, is there any one trade that has more women workers than another?
Well, yes. So you see a higher representation in trades such as the electrical, carpentry. Insulators have had a great increase over the last few years. One of them underrepresented trades is actually steam fitting.
Okay.
So for me, I was the 8th in. I believe that for the hall, we are up to maybe 14, but you can correct me on that.
Okay.
But we are still coming in at like under 1% representation here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're like at the tip of the spear, forging ahead here.
We are starting out, but we're going to hit strong.
So moving forward, what do you have any advice or, you know, I'm sure you'd like to see more women to work shoulder to shoulder with you. Like what would you say to anyone that was, you know, watching the podcast and going, you know, what is steam fitting and, you know, how do I see myself fitting in there? Like, what's your advice?
My advice, if you are someone who is hands-on, who maybe enjoys more of a physical occupation, and you can see yourself wanting to move and constantly be challenged and engaged. Like for me, I really enjoy puzzles, and like I grew up with a mom that always was like challenging my brother and I to compete against each other in word games and math games. I feel like this has been a great avenue for those teachings, because you're allowed to kind of have that mental game of like, oh, we're doing our pipe, we're fabricating pipes, so we need to know how to do our math runs. And then word games, you're dealing with the public, and you've got to learn how to deal with people from all walks of life in construction. One of the most interesting things about construction is you never really know where someone's going to come from. I actually know an iron worker who was a ballet dancer. Like, that's incredible. You can have people come from all walks of life, so you learn how to deal with people. I think if you like an engaging work environment, there's just nothing like the trades.
Yeah.
You're hands-on, you're dealing with people, it's conflict management, and every day goes quickly. You're learning skill sets you can use at home. For men, women, everyone in between, I think that the trades is just an incredible place to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I can't imagine just sitting idle all day. That was never something that made sense for me as an occupation. So this is great.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast, and I'll see you around the hall. I know you're an animal lover because I had Frank in the other day when Frank is my dog. Which,
you guys need to meet Frank.
And so yeah, I'll bring him in again to say hi. What I'll do is I'll save it for IP Day, and
Okay.
we'll celebrate after.
That sounds like a little bit of a long wait, but I guess good things take the time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Hey.